for time, let's go ahead and get started. I am, again, so grateful all of you can be here today. This is our 2023 Speaker Series graduation. We will have Assemblymember Wicks joining us in just a few moments. Every year at Speaker Series graduation, we invite an elected official whose district touches our service area, and Assemblymember Wicks has District 15, which is part of Contra Costa County. We share her with the Alameda County Community Food Bank as well. And Assemblymember Buffy Wicks only has about 25 minutes today. So I'm going to do her intro before she actually joins us so that we're able to use all of her time with us today for her to hear the hunger stories that our advocates have been cultivating over our 6-week series. So to continue with Assemblymember Wicks's intro, like I said, she has the 15th District of California. She was elected in 2018, and she had come from working in federal elected office during the Obama administration in Washington, D.C. She has come back to California, and she was again elected in 2020 to represent our food bank service area. Assemblymember Wicks truly is a champion of food security and anti-poverty initiatives, so much so that the main budget item that is on our food bank's legislative agenda this year, the $60 million investment in Cal Foods, was authored by none other than Assemblymember Buffy Wicks herself. So we are so grateful to have her as a champion for food security in the California legislature, and for her to be one of our own electeds. We're very fortunate. Her team and the assembly member will be joining in 4 minutes. So for all of our speakers, I emailed out the order of speakers last night. I'll go over it again quickly. Dawn, you will be our first speaker, followed by Brian, followed by Joanne, followed by Malia, then Caroline, then Danny, then Willie, then Tamu, then Julia, Sharina, if she's able to. I think she's sick and lost her voice, so if she's unable to go, we'll then close out with Daryl. So, like I said, the assembly member just has a very limited time with us. It is just enough time for everyone to have 2 minutes. So the assembly member might respond to everyone's hunger story at the end, rather than doing 12 individual responses. Ideally, we would have a little bit more time, but we are just right in the middle of the legislative cycle here in California. So we're just so grateful to have any of our elected officials join us today. Are there any questions from the 12 advocates who will be talking today about timing, order, any questions at all? Yeah, Willie.
Hey, Cassidy, thank you. Thank you for all that you've done, and all the mentors as well. It's been great. So just to incorporate Assemblymember Wicks, what would be the preferred greeting to put on our story?
Perfect, good question. Either assembly member or assemblywoman Wicks. And Wicks is spelled W-I-C-K-S.
Assembly member?
Assembly member, or I've heard her refer to herself as assemblywoman. So either is fine.
One's fine. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question about, so let's say Dawn's gonna go first, and then after she's done, are you gonna like call out to me, like, oh, you're next, or?
Yes, definitely. So I'm not sure if the assembly member will want to introduce herself to the group. I've let her team know we've already taken care of introducing her. But right after, if she is done with an intro, I'll say our first speaker is Dawn. Take it away, Dawn. So when I say that, whoever that speaker is, just unmute your mic, go for it, because like I said, we have really limited time. And then right after Dawn is finished speaking, I'll then say Brian is up next. When you're done, Brian, I'll say Joanne is up next, so on and so forth. So I will make sure to call each person out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Cassidy, so just a quick, can I still have one more room?
Yeah.
Okay, so right after, until the last participant, because we got that schedule, what happens next?
Your
Was
question,
so we got the agenda, like who comes, who who goes first. But after that, after we all share our hunger story, are we still meeting after assembly member Wicks leaves the room?
yes, we will be continuing until 5 p.m. as normal. I sent the full agenda last night, but the assembly member will be departing around 3:40, and some of our visitors who are here to hear your final speeches as well will probably depart at 3:40 as well, and then we'll continue our meeting until 5. Good question. All right. Well, we are expecting the assembly member at any moment. Let me give her a quick text just to see. Speakers, everyone's going to do fantastic. I know that you've all worked so hard over the last 6 weeks. Kiva, do you want to use these couple of moments while we wait to share the vocal exercises that you were recommending to the group?
Okay, actually a relaxation exercise. So if everyone can find yourself in a relaxed place, and we're just going to take a few minutes. I want you to close your eyes and just breathe normally and feel yourself breathe. All right, and now I want you to take a few seconds and feel your feet and see how they feel. Feel the blood rushing through your feet. Thank you, feet, for carrying me where I need to go. Move up to your ankles and to your calves. Feel your calves and the relaxed muscles in your calves. Feel your knees. Thank you, legs and thighs and calves, for taking me where I need to go in my life. And feel your hips and your buttocks and your torso. Feel your waist. Keep breathing and just feel the moment. Feel your sinew, feel your bones, and move up to your shoulders. Thank you, shoulders, for carrying the weight of my life for me. Move down your arms, feel your forearms and your elbows. Move into your wrists and those wonderful hands that do beautiful things for me all of my life. Let's go back up to our neck. Thank you, neck, for supporting me. Go to our scalp. Just keep breathing. Thank you, scalp, for holding me, holding my space. And one last breath. Thank you, body, for being here with me. And you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Kiva. That was wonderful.
Welcome.
I just got a text back from the assembly member's staff member. She'll be on at 3:15, so we have 3 minutes. From our guests who are here, do you have any questions for the advocacy team, for any of the participants here? Anything you'd like to ask the group? I know for many of you, it's your first time coming to a speaker series graduation.
No questions, but just thank you for having me. This is my first one, and I'm very excited to be here, and good luck to you all.
Thank you, Jennifer. For those who haven't met Jennifer, she's our Director of Human Resources at the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano.
I'll just take the opportunity here at the beginning. This is my 3rd year of this, and it is so exciting and such a blessing to have this group. For reasons, it's also fun to see faces here that are graduates. So I want to thank the leaders that have helped, the graduates, the mentors, and ultimately to all of you new graduates for putting in all the hard work, the courage, the time, the energy to work on your hunger story and ultimately share that hunger story, in support of our whole community. So I think we have 15 graduates, Cassidy, that are now officially CAP members and so active out in the community. And so I look forward to more of you joining that CAP group and helping us in this messaging. So again, thank you. Good luck today. I know you're going to be great.
Thank you, Joel. And we are going to After everyone speaks, after the assembly member leaves, we'll do an interest form to see which of the graduates from today are interested in going on to join CAP. I got some emails and messages from some of you that you're really interested in CAP and you want to know a little bit more. So we carved out time to do that today. All right, we just have 1 minute until the assembly member joins. Thank you everyone for being here a little early. I appreciate it. I didn't want a big flood of people coming in right as the member was joining and we were getting started. So I appreciate everyone's timeliness. Just checking my phone to make sure they have the Zoom link.
Cassidy, in your intro, I don't know that you mentioned that Assemblywoman Wicks was actually the recipient of the Hunger Fighter Award that was just, I believe, on Monday. I believe your name was in there. I think Jenny's name was in there, and we had 2 elected officials. So congrats again to you folks, but to the Assemblywoman, that was a great honor for her, well deserved.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, for those who are newer to the food security network, all of us California food banks come together in a coalition called CHALK, which is abbreviated for the California Hunger Action Coalition. And CHALK brings together food banks, food security, anti-poverty organizations. CAFB is part of it. And every year they choose 2 Californians and 2 legislators who are champions of the anti-hunger space. And Assemblymember Wicks was a 2023 legislative champion. And that's a perfect segue. Elof, hello, it's great to see you. Thank you for being here.
So excited to hear from you all. I know the assembly member is going to be driving, but she'll hop on in a few if she's not already here. There's so many people I can't see.
Wonderful. I don't believe she's here yet, but we're looking forward to it. And for those who weren't part of last year's series, Elof actually went through our 2022 speaker series, right? And now she works for Assemblymember Buffy Wicks. So we get to connect with her again in her new capacity with the assembly member. Wonderful. Elof, anything that we should mention to the advocates in advance of the member joining? We already went through her intro, since we know we're a little short for time, wanted to make sure we had that taken care of. We were just talking about how she's a recipient of the 2023 Hunger Fighter Award, and we're so grateful for her her leadership, being such a champion in this space. And we were talking about the Cal Food budget item that she authored this year that is top line on our legislative agenda here at the food bank.
No, I think I would just like to echo the fact that this is a very important issue for the assembly member. Of course, she is housing chair, but I think a lot of the issues that our communities faced are interconnected, and hunger is one of the main ones that we're seeing here. So I know that she is very excited to hear from you all. Let me actually just ping her to make sure she has the link.
Thank you so much. And Elof, if we're short on time with the member, we can go ahead and get started if that's helpful, and she can jump in, or if she'll just be a couple minutes, we can stall for a few minutes. We just know she has to get out of here around 3:40. So we wanted to make sure she had enough time to get to her next meeting.
Yeah, I think it'll just be a couple minutes if it's okay for us to wait just a few. And then if she's still not able to hop on, we can go ahead and start.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you.
Cassidy, I'm pretty sure we have some potential 2024 participants in this meeting here today.
I think you're right, Willie. You've gotten quite a response with people reaching out and being interested, and I think some food bankers as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Wonderful. And we start planning for the next speaker series right around the time this one ends. So if anyone's interested, just send me an email.
She just let me know that she'll be hopping on in a minute.
Thank you so much. Jennifer, I see your question. How do we recruit for the speaker series? So I love that question because it's really evolved over the years based on us identifying that we wanted to bring in community members who represent all of the parts of our service area that we're serving, all of the different faces of hunger that our food bank interacts with. And so we not only put out the application through all of our agency partners, which goes out to over 200 organizations. We also put it out through our elected officials' offices and their social medias, our own social media, through a lot of different coalitions and networks and boards that our team and staff are a part of. This year and 2022 were years where we got at least double the amount of applications compared to what we can take, which is so exciting because we, for so long, we're just trying to build the program, and now it's in a place where there's people every year waiting to join it. We do limit it to about 10 to 15 people, so we can still offer that one-on-one mentorship. A great question. And it looks like the assembly member has joined the meeting. I saw the name. I'm looking for the photo on the screen. Assembly member Wicks, are you there?
Hi, yeah, hi. I'm walking from meeting to meeting, so I apologize. I'm running around like a crazy person.
No worries.
As per usual.
No worries. Thank you so much for taking the time. We know it's such a busy time of the year. So we'll make it quick. We want to make sure you can get to your next session, but thank you so much for joining our 2023 Speaker Series graduation with the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano. We were giving your introduction before you arrived to make sure we left enough time for you all to greet our advocates. And I was sharing with them how you're authoring the 60 million cal food ask in our budget. You're truly a champion in this food security space, anti-poverty work. And we were congratulating you on your win of the 2023 Hunger Fighter Award. Before we jump right in, would you like to say anything to the group before we head to our first speaker?
Sure, just wanted to thank everyone for having me here today, especially thank my crazy schedule. But more importantly, really to thank all of you, every single one of you in Zoom, and those that you work with your partners on this big issue. It's one I care a lot about. I do food security work every year, whether it's budget asks or policy bills. Because I think it's one of the most fundamental basic human rights that we have is access to good quality food. So just a tremendous thank you and eager to hear.
Thank you so much, Assembly Member. We have 11 speakers today. Each person is speaking for 2 minutes or less. Everyone is at that 2-minute mark or under. We will head right into our first speaker. Depending on how much time you have, you're welcome to respond to each speaker individually after they speak, or everyone can go, all 11 speakers. And if you wanted to give one response at the end, that would work as well.
Yeah, so, why don't we do that? And I'll be here listening and I'll hear everyone out and then can react at the end.
Wonderful. Sounds like a great plan. So our first speaker is Dawn. Dawn, I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, Assemblywoman Wicks. My name is Dawn Manley, and I am the Food and Fund Drive Coordinator here at the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano, and a current 2023 Speaker Series participant. I have the privilege of being a forward-facing advocate in our mission of leading the fight to end hunger in service of my community. I encourage you to show support for Senate Bill 348, nutritious school meals for California students. I grew up here in Contra Costa County. My brother and I were raised by a single father with the help of my grandmother. Unfortunately, both of my parents suffered from active alcoholism while I was an adolescent. My mother's disease took her away from caring for us, but my father was functional enough to maintain custody. Growing up, I have a vivid memory of our refrigerator. It was a sad sight, usually not much more inside than a 2-liter bottle of 7-Up and a package of Oscar Mayer bologna. No fruits, no vegetables, nothing that would amount to a decent meal. My school lunches were pretty pathetic. At my grandmother's house, things weren't much better. I'll never forget the time she bought one of those single-serve pre-made shrimp cocktails in a glass jar. When I asked if I could have some, she said, "No, this is too expensive and only for adults." Another sad reality that shaped my lived experience with food insecurity until I'd had enough. Once I came and got into high school, I ended up leaving home and staying with friends. My friends became my family, and my school became my stability. I graduated from high school and went off to make my own way. I know that there are school-aged children living my experience. According to Feeding America, in 2021, 24% of single-parent households were food insecure. When our children spend 5 full days at school for much of their young lives, it is here that we have an incredible opportunity and responsibility to support them with the basic need of nutritious and wholesome food that will help them succeed. It may be the only meal they get in a day. As the parent of 2 high school students and a survivor of childhood food insecurity, I thank you for your time, partnership, and your support.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Our next speaker will be Brian.
Good afternoon, Assemblywoman Wicks. Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Espinoza. I work for the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano as a CalFresh Outreach Coordinator, and I'm a current participant at the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano's 2023 Speaker Series. When people think of food, they usually think of their favorite dish or family member they enjoy eating food with. In my family, the idea of food has always been associated with money, which also meant stress. My parents, they immigrated from Mexico, so when they came to America, they had to work low-paying jobs to provide for the family. Some nights I remember my mom saying, "I forgot to cook dinner," or other nights I had to resort to canned food that was in the pantry. And I realized we did this to save money for the bills. Food insecurity has followed me all throughout life, but I really felt it in college when I was on my own regarding my expenses. And I was left with $40 a week to spend on food. And I was going to class without any food in my stomach. Sometimes I'd have a cup of coffee or a sandwich I'd put together in the morning. And I studied public health policy, but I got really insecure with my group of friends because they were worried about their assignments and exams. Meanwhile, I was just worried about what my next meal was going to be. And in public health policy, I started focusing on food in relation to poverty. This is a topic I'm very passionate about. And when I graduated college, I worked a lot of jobs that focused on public benefits, leading to my current position as a CalFresh Outreach Coordinator, which this is great because I'm helping people to apply for the grocery assistance that they deserve. But a lot of families I see, they qualify for the bare minimum of $23 a month in their EBT card. That's not a lot of money to spend on groceries. So Assemblywoman Wicks, I ask for your strong support of Senate Bill 600, the California CalFresh Minimum Benefit Adequacy Act. This bill would increase that minimum of $23 a month to $50 a month. So that would help those families that fall in this gray area to be able to have more options to consider for their monthly budget in groceries. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Brian. Joanne is next, but she just lost connection and she's rejoining. So I'm going to put Joanne later on the agenda. Malia, you're up next.
Good afternoon, Assemblymember Wicks. My name is Malia Carey, and I currently serve as the Government and Public Affairs Manager at Second Harvest Food Bank of Orange County in Southern California. And I'm happy to speak with you today about my experiences in the food advocacy space. Growing up, I had a good group of friends throughout middle and high school that I would hang out with. And one of those friends, Tony, regularly experienced food insecurity. Our school cafeteria offered student meals, but there was a separate line for those students who qualified for free or reduced meals. And oftentimes Tony wouldn't want to separate from our friend group to go stand in the other line because he wouldn't want to miss out on the conversations we were having. So he would forego his lunch that day so he could still feel like a part of the group. And the days that he did break away to go get his lunch, you could sense the embarrassment and stigma that he felt having to go to the special line to get his food. And I remember thinking back then, why can't everyone just stay in the same line? And we live in one of the most affluent counties and one of the most affluent states in the country. Why does anyone have to pay for their school meals at all? So when I began working in the advocacy space for food insecurity about 2 years ago, it really became clear to me that we don't have a food supply problem in this country, but a food access problem. And this is a solvable issue. What really motivated me was to see that working together with others like myself in the food advocacy space, legislative successes for helping our kids here in California who are facing food insecurity were actually attainable. As of this school year, all K through 12 public school students have free school meals here in California, and our kids don't have to go hungry at school anymore because they're too embarrassed to stand in a different line to pay for their lunch like my friend Tony had to. And to build upon the momentum of the School Meals for All movement here in California, I'd humbly ask for your support of SB 348, sponsored by Senator Skinner, which would expand these school meals by making them more nutritious for our kids. With our abundance of fresh grown, nutritious food, California should have the nation's most well-fed children. And SB 348 would ensure every school-age child has access to 2 healthy meals every day, while also improving education and health outcomes in California's most diverse and under-resourced communities. So I would greatly appreciate your support of SB 348, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Malia. Next up, we have Caroline.
Good afternoon. My name is Caroline Petro. I'm a partner agency coordinator at Sacramento Food Bank and Family Services and a participant in the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano's 2023 speaker series. Growing up in my household, food meant love. It meant sitting around the dinner table with my big, exuberant family every night and connecting with our roots by making the recipes that my grandmothers learned from their grandmothers. But I knew that millions of Americans did not have what I had and that they struggled to put food on the table. I was raised to believe that this is profoundly unjust. Wanting to make a difference, I volunteered at food pantries, got involved with local advocacy to fight food insecurity, and ultimately started working at Sacramento Food Bank and Family Services. That's where I learned how powerful the impact of a smart investment can be. One of the things my team there does is provide capacity building grants to our network of more than 120 partner food pantries. For example, one of my partners called this spring to tell me that thanks to the grant his pantry received from us, he was able to pave a new parking lot on their property and serve dozens more families at each distribution. This kind of investment is a gift that keeps on giving. The grant funding we received went directly to our partner, and every dollar poured into that new parking lot will turn into meals on tables for years to come. Assemblymember, I urge your support of a $180 million one-time investment in the state budget to support food bank capacity and climate resilience. Over the past 3 years, there has been an unprecedented and sustained increase in demand on food banks. Our food bank in Sacramento County, for instance, is currently serving twice the number of people that we were serving pre-pandemic, and there is no end in sight. It took a decade after the 2008 downturn for food insecurity to return to pre-Great Recession levels. With this one-time commitment, just like my partner did, we will invest in infrastructure and break free of capacity constraints, allowing us to meet our community's increased need for food for years to come. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Caroline. And our next speaker is Danny.
Hello, my name is Danny Avalos. I'm your friendly neighborhood agency relations coordinator at the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano and a participant in the 2023 speaker series. I consider myself a proud WIC baby, coming from 2 immigrant parents from El Salvador who worked hard for the American dream. Growing up, I never realized that we were food insecure. Going grocery shopping, I looked forward to tearing out the coupons out of our WIC booklet to hand to the cashier. And I can never forget how delicious a cold, plain mayo and bread sandwich with a glass of Tang was after a long day of school to fuel my midday shenanigans with my dog. As I got older, I met my wife, we had our first child. I quickly found out how hard it actually is out there. Living paycheck to paycheck, making too much money to qualify for any assistance programs, but only being able to afford mac and cheese, chicken nuggets, and frozen juices for dinner for the week frustrated me. As we had our second child and they started at school, things only got harder. I felt as if I was standing on a cliff, and I was, a hunger cliff. I believe these experiences led me to my helping heart and wanting to help wherever I could. During the pandemic, my church partnered with the food bank to hold a drive-through distribution for about a year and a half, which ultimately led me to working here. I just celebrated my first year, and during that time as a TFAP program coordinator, I've seen the impact this program makes in our communities. So I ask that you support the $900 million budget request for TFAP. Now, my helping heart beats harder. Last July, I joined the California State Guard's Team Blaze. We're a unit of volunteer wildland firefighters and search and rescue crews. With the ever-expanding fire seasons and the devastation that they cause every year, it's not a matter of if we'll need disaster funds, but when and where they'll be needed. And so I also ask that you back the $10 million State Disaster Food Assistance Program budget request. Assemblymember Wicks, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Danny. And Joanne, you're up next.
My name is Joanne Hipolito. I work for Valent, an agriculture solutions company. Valent has a long-standing partnership with the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano as we both work towards zero hunger. I am honored to be a participant in this year's speaker series. I grew up in the Philippines where food is scarce. As a young child, my 7 siblings and I experienced hunger on a regular basis. Even more so when our father, who was our only source of income, lost his job. My mom could only afford to feed us rice with a sprinkle of salt. Based on my experience, I have become passionate about helping to end hunger. I am hard to get a good education. My husband and I moved to the United States to provide a better quality life for our children. We are both professionally successful, but life, as we know, still throws you curveballs and knock you off plan. Shortly after giving birth to our third child, we were told that he had a life-threatening disease. His medical complexity required us to stay at the hospital for an extended time. At only 6 months old, he already had 7 surgeries, which included 2 liver transplants. I was in survival mode with all of my energy shifting to my sick child. I neglected self-care, and putting food on the table was just challenging and complicated. As a result, I was hungry, depressed, and tired. The nourishment of caregivers should be an important priority so that we can be strong enough to take care of our most vulnerable loved ones. Life circumstances are often outside of our control. Assemblymember Wicks, I urge you and your colleagues to fully support the $180 million investment in the upcoming budget to expand California's food network. Food insecurity can happen to anyone, and we see it even here in the Bay Area. I believe this investment can help our state proactively support caregivers in their times of needs and show that there is care for caregiving. Thank you.
Great job, Joanne. Thank you so much. Our next speaker will be Tamu. Oh, Tamu, I think you're muted. Here, I can unmute you. Are you unmuted now?
Oh, I've just been chippering away.
No worries. Take it from the top.
Okay. My name is Tamu Alexander. I'm a resident of Contra Costa County, a volunteer with the food bank, and a current participant in the food bank of Contra Costa County and Solano's 2023 food speaker series. My story is a little different. You know, my family and I traveled frequently during my childhood, and I recall one trip where we encountered children selling food along the roadside. I inquired why the children were working and not in school. And my parents explained that the children were making a living because everyone didn't have the same home life. So sometimes children had to work to support their families. When I returned home, I worked alongside my parents, working at food banks and other religious organizations, giving out food. As an adult, I came to realize that 1 in 5 children in America are food insecure. And additionally, there are a lot of people that are serviced through the food banks, lunch programs, and food pantries because they make too much money to qualify for public benefits, but they need help. They're basically on the food cliff that Danny talked about. So I found myself in the same position at one point, needing to provide for myself and 3 children with little to no support. I was not qualified for public assistance since I was gainfully employed, but the loss of 2 incomes was daunting to feed myself and my family during that time. I depended on the food banks and the pantries to feed myself until I restabilized my family. And, I recall that it was the summertime and there were no food programs during that time to, even give my kids the lunch programs, which would have been really helpful. So, being that I was so used to giving and not being the person that asked, it was difficult for me. It was a difficult time. I've since stabilized my family and continue serving my community through the food bank, but with a compassion that came from needing the same services that I volunteered for. So I'm asking for your support of SB 600, California CalFresh Minimum Benefit Adequacy Act of 2023. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Great job, Tamu. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Willie. And just to do a quick time check, after that, we have 3 speakers. So Assemblymember Elof, I hope we're doing okay on time. Feel free to message me if we need to adjust. Willie, take it away.
Okay. Greetings, Assemblymember Wicks. My name is Willie Mendoza. I'm an employee at the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano, a lifelong resident of Contra Costa, and a participant in this year's speaker series. I want to take you on a journey of a man who lived a very high-risk lifestyle for over 20 years. He grew up in a single-parent household in Pittsburgh, where drugs and crime were very prevalent. With no father figure in the house, he sought guidance from father figures, many of whom had come from broken families themselves. Without the responsibility and skills needed to be a productive member of society, gainful employment was not a consideration. And then something happened. 2 things, a girl named Angelica and a boy named Michael. This man was faced with the choice to become the father he never had or to go on living the life he had grown comfortable with. After proving he could care for his children, he was granted sole custody. After what he thought was the biggest fight of his life came the real fight, being a single father with limited resources. This man pursued every offer of help he could find, including food assistance. He enrolled in a TANF welfare to work program that required volunteer service or school to receive benefits. He began volunteering at the food bank to meet his requirements. An opening soon came along, and that man applied for a job at that food bank. He became the new maintenance worker at the food bank. 10 years, 3 promotions, and what seems like a lifetime ago. That man was me. My children are now 12 and 15, and I've had many more biggest fights of my life. I say that to say this. I believe that I would not be where I am today without the welfare to work program and the skills it gave me to become what I had never thought possible, a father and a productive member of society. This is why I'm asking for your support of AB 605 to remove educational grants and funding from income guidelines that would exclude many parents from participating in this program and achieving the type of success that I have. I achieved exactly what this program set out to do, and I now have an obligation to fight for others who are seeking a new way of life for themselves and the people they love. Thank you.
Great work, Willie. Thank you so much. Next, we have Julia.
Hello, my name is Julia Bermudez, and I'm a resident of Contra Costa County. I work for the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano, and I'm a participant in the Food Bank's 2023 Speaker Series. Assemblywoman Wicks, I'm here today to ask for your support of AB 221 to ensure food banks have the resources needed to continue as emergency responders. Before joining the food bank, I worked in hospitality in Silicon Valley. Unfortunately, in 2020, I had to lay off my entire team and wear many hats to ensure our hotels remained open for medical staff. Soon after, the devastating CZU Lightning Complex fire hit, destroying almost 1,500 structures. My first thought was, we need to help these people. We had empty hotel rooms, so I partnered with the Red Cross and drove to evacuation centers to offer shelter. What I witnessed firsthand were distraught families, children, and seniors. Imagine this, in the middle of the night, you hear sirens and alerts telling you to evacuate immediately. You can grab only what matters most. Then you run out the door as quickly as you can. The one thing these people had in common was fear. Fear of not knowing if their house would be left standing or where they would sleep or even get their next meal. In moments like this, no one should have to worry about food access. While some displacements are temporary, others are out of their homes for months, even years. In fact, our food bank is still sending food to Butte County to support those affected by the 2018 Camp Fire. It takes time to rebuild lives, especially in rural areas. According to a UC Irvine study, rural areas sustain more wildfire damage and have higher poverty, unemployment, and low-income residents. Our food bank's response to these disasters is a key part of our hunger relief work. We've distributed tens of thousands of meal boxes and are actively preparing for this upcoming wildfire season. Unfortunately, it's not enough. I therefore ask for your strong support of AB 221, which would supplement food bank assistance with prepaid cards to help address food insecurity in disaster-stricken communities. Thank you.
Amazing work, Julia. Thank you so much. Our final speaker will be Daryl.
Hello, Assemblyman Wicks. I'm thrilled to be here for people serious about defeating hunger in our communities. I'm Daryl Burns, and I'm grateful to be a member of the 2023 Contra Costa Food Bank Speaker Series. I'm a development coordinator. I worked with the West Contra Costa Meals on Wheels. Before that, I was a grant writer for the Bay Area Rescue Mission and a graduate of their 12-step recovery program. My story starts with the tragic death of my mother. I became depressed and guilty because she died alone. So I self-medicated with drugs and alcohol. It wasn't long before I became homeless. I thought it couldn't get any worse, but it did. My jaw was broken in an altercation. My mouth was wired shut for 8 weeks. I used a blender to liquefy foods. Unfortunately, I didn't have a place to plug in the blender many nights, so I didn't have anything. Hunger is a powerful motivator. It can make you do wrong or can make you do right. In a moment of clarity, I got the courage to seek help. I came to the homeless shelter at the mission with my blender. It was Thanksgiving and the dining room was packed. They served all of my favorite foods: yams, turkeys, green beans, rolls, dressing, and cranberry sauce. My Thanksgiving meal was gravy. Day in and day out, people are suffering. Hunger causes chaos, instability, depression, poor health, violence, and crime soon follow. None of this is new. What is new is this common sense legislation that sets the annual baseline at $60 million, ongoing, up from the current $8 million. The data shared by the Northwestern Institute for Policy Research indicates that a meager 1% change in hunger will result in $600 million in preventative health care costs. That's 10 times the initial investment. Passing this measure is an upstream investment strategy that will change lives, save lives, and mitigate the suffering and chaos in our communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Daryl. And thank you so much to all of our speakers. Did I get everybody? Just want to make sure we move through that really quickly. Yeah? Okay. Assemblymember Wicks, we'll turn it to you if you'd like to respond to the 11 advocates who just shared their hunger stories with you.
Sure, and forgive me for not being on camera. I'm driving to my next meeting, but so I didn't want to Zoom on camera. I feel like that breaks the law, even though I don't think there's a law against it, but it just feels like I shouldn't do it. But I listened to every word. I will tell you, I am endlessly impressed with what you all have put together here. And before I became an elected official, I actually taught storytelling as an advocacy tool, a concept called story of self, which some of you here utilized pretty well. You guys hit the nail on the head. I mean, telling your personal story is such a powerful motivational factor for a legislator. You know, Dawn, you talked about the image of like the refrigerator and the shrimp cocktail, and like those little details really like painted this for me in a way that was really meaningful. And Brian talking about like living on $40 a week and worried about your next meal and not your studies. And Malia talking about your friend Tony and what that experience meant for you. Caroline, you talked about how food is love, which was such a nice way to kind of frame the conversation. And Danny talking about that you were a proud WIC baby, and kind of the image of like a sandwich and a tang tasting so good. That really kind of like painted a really vivid picture for me. And Joanne, just the notion of a sprinkle of salt, those details really help, I think, people on the other end like understand the story better. And Tamu talking about the struggles you had during summertime, right? Which so many families do in summertime when their kids aren't in school, and that you used to be the person, being the person who's giving, not the one who's asking, and what that sort of means for you. And just Willie talking about your success and why you kind of want to pay it forward, so to speak. And Julia about the campfire and, you know, for all of us to understand what that means for those that have experienced that kind of loss. And Daryl, I'm just imagining you showing up at the shelter with the blender in hand, and what that moment meant for you. I just am really impressed with what you all shared here. And, you know, being on the receiving end, I get, you know, ask my scheduler, I get 60, 70 meeting requests a week of people who want to come in and lobby us on different stuff. And it's a lot of lobbyists who come in and they get paid to lobby, and that's what they do. And it's pretty formulaic in the legislature, but what is not formulaic is when people come with their real story and their real passion, and how their experience drives their desire to change policy so that we can help people, and how people connect their own experience to the broader policy fight, and why it's important to change the system now. And that is what I just heard from all of you in a very passionate, meaningful way. And so don't ever let go of your voice. That story, 2 minutes or less is perfect, because you're going to meet legislators are busy people, politicians are busy people. So, but you guys did such a great job. I'm just really so thankful for your work and what you're doing every day. And the fact that you're using your own personal story to help others is just so critical. So just a huge appreciation coming from me on this. And I want to thank the Food Bank for putting together this program. So you guys knocked it out of the ballpark.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember. I really appreciate you really calling out each advocate and sharing what resonated with you from their story. This group has been diligently working over the last 6 weeks to craft these stories, and we recognize how vulnerable it is for them to be sharing about their experience with food insecurity. And we recognize it can be re-traumatizing and it can be triggering. And so I appreciate you making this a really safe space for them to, for the first time ever, share these stories with an elected official. And again, we really appreciate your partnership with the Food Bank. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you guys, and keep at it, keep going. You all are so powerful and so beautiful, and I see you and we see you, and we're going to make the change we want to see.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember. Drive safely to your next meeting.
All right, thanks.
All right, everyone. Well, congratulations. You all did your hunger stories and your presentations. Yay, a big round of applause for everyone. Great work. And Eloch, thank you so much for coordinating the Assemblymember joining today. We appreciate you being here and for the time. We know it is the busiest time of year for someone who's an elected official and for the offices. So thank you so much. Speakers who just shared, what are your instant reflections, reactions? What was that like, sharing your story publicly for the first time? I see some tears, I see some smiles. If you feel, comfortable sharing, what was that like?
For me, I'm just glad I did it because this is something I kind of plan on doing more in the future. And I'm not really too experienced on doing public speaking. So I'm glad I got myself out there, and I feel just like ready going forward now. And I even got my CalFresh team right here in front of me for support. So that way I wasn't so nervous.
Oh, what a supportive team. That's awesome.
Brian,
Yeah,
I'm so proud of you.
Oh yeah, and
You've worked
I got to
so
thank Tina
hard.
too.
You've worked so hard. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Tina. You've always been available for me to help me practice, so I appreciate that.
No problem. You're awesome.
And
I think that everybody was well prepared. Thank you, Cassidy, for putting this together. Thank you guys for sharing. Everybody really did a great job. And I don't know if I went over 2 minutes. It kind of surprised me when you said, Daryl, you're next. I was like, oh, okay. But other than that, yeah, it was, Jason did a wonderful job with me. And it was so good hearing you guys' story, especially you guys that work at the food bank. This is really important because, I never knew what you guys do. You guys are all over the place. This is great. So keep up the good work.
I just wanted to say that, the beauty, everything was just incredible, right? Everyone's stories, and to hear the stories throughout as we've been on this journey together over the past couple of weeks, and to see it all come together, it's just incredible. The beauty of it is each one of our stories are so unique to us. There's no right or wrong. It's your story. You're telling your story, and we all told our truth. We got vulnerable, and the beauty of it as well is that I guarantee you that as some of us opened up about some of the personal history of ourselves or our families, that there was other people in the meeting that said, wow, me too, right? I can relate to that. And I think so. Like, I know I shared it in the past, what's shared from the heart hits the heart, right? And I think that we all did a really great job. And so good job, everyone. Thank you.
I wanted to say what I appreciate is, and I think this shows the resilience of folks in this group. We've all had these lived experiences where we have to work under stress. And today was similar to that in the sense that we all were prepared for giving our speeches, everyone be able to say good work, the assembly member being able to do that. The circumstances didn't allow it, and so we went through that quick succession of going to each one. I can tell you, if I was in that place, I would have fallen apart, not knowing when I know when do I got to go, when do I not got to go. And you guys all held strong. You all went as if it was nothing, and that's a testament to the resilience of folks that live through these lived experiences. And if anything, I think it accentuated your stories more. You could truly speak to it, not just in the past, but right here in the present. You can make a change, or even when impacted, even a minor thing like this, where others may not necessarily be able to because they don't have that lived experience. And I think it says a lot about this group. So again, great work, guys. I'm glad that you were able to build your resilience even more today.
And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the staff and Cassidy and Haley and the peer mentors. I just wanted to say how impressed I've been with the structure of the program and the testament to how effective the program is. For those of you that don't know, I'm looking at my food bank to start a similar program, and just going through this program with y'all to see kind of the evolution of your stories. I was there that first day when we kind of were spitballing kind of what our hunger stories looked like, and to see the transgression of the stories to what they became and how you presented them today. That is a testament to the strength of this program and how it works. And I was just so impressed with y'all. So thank you to Cassidy and Haley and the entire team at Contra Costa and our peer mentors. You guys are awesome. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So thank you.
Thank you, Malia. And For those who are observing, you might have picked up on the fact that there's quite a bit of food bankers on the call. Malia and Caroline are from 2 other California food banks. And as Malia said, she's looking at starting a speaker series type program. And so we're appreciative of the opportunity to be so collaborative in this network and bring in other partners from other food banks and allow them to see how we do this. And Malia, I'm so excited to see how your advocacy program turns out. And thank you to all the food bank leaders here and team leaders who were so open to having your staff go through this series. I think many of you know we had such a significant interest in staff this year, and we're looking forward to incorporating staff again next year. And like I said at the start of the meeting, we can only bring in so many people each year, but we wanted to make sure that we continue to leave space for community members and for food bank staff members. So thank you to the food bank for being, open to that. Dawn, I heard Brian mention how helpful the public speaking module was. Dawn led our public speaking module this year and did a fantastic job. I've never seen a public speaking module get so much positive reception. So thank you for doing that. Willie, what's up?
Hey, so I mean, I don't know if it's come up before, but based on interest, have you thought about making it twice a year? I don't know if that's realistic.
It takes about 5 months to put on a speaker series, including recruitment, prep time, and facilitating. So it would be full-time year-round to do 2. So let's table that conversation. But I like where you're thinking. For those from the food bank who may have to hop off before we conclude the rest of our meeting, anything you'd like to say to our amazing advocates who, once again, just shared their stories publicly for the first time?
If I can, please. First of all, you guys are amazing. What a great job all of you did. And I know the word vulnerable came up earlier. It's not only that, it's courage. Courage is vulnerability. You're putting yourself out there at risk. And so if there's a big word for all of you, it's courageous today, not only in what you were able to present, but the courage you have and speaking your truth, as was said earlier, and speaking about what passion you have around this subject, not only as a lived experience, but knowing full well that there are people out there today, day in, day out, that are living similar experiences as those. And how do we do a great job of helping those? And what you're talking about here and what you're advocating is just that. That is the job that needs to be done. So congratulations. Great job, everybody, today in doing this. And great job in being courageous.
I'll jump in and second everything that Darwin said. I'm incredibly grateful to serve beside you all. This meeting here is kind of a representation of why exactly it is that I love this work and being here and able to serve with you all in this, what it is that we're collectively trying to move forward, with fighting food insecurity and really taking it to a level where big things can get done, and your willingness to share your stories with us here. And what I know that this is really just a launching pad for you all who are going to jump in and do even more of this and share with more people and really move these issues forward for our communities. I'm so grateful that you are willing to do that and for what I know that you will be doing in the future.
I just want to add one thing. I feel a sense of pride for all of you, and it's kind of the word pride is weird. I can't possibly take credit for what you all did, but I guess the better word is really honored. I'm honored to have met you. I'm honored to have worked with you. I'm honored to have you share your story with me, with all of us. It is brave and courageous, and it has an impact on others. So, well done. And thank you. Just much gratitude to all of you for sharing your stories and doing the work that you're doing and being committed to this cause. I'm grateful.
I said it a little bit at the outset, but I'll say it again. Those stories were amazing, and I'm just so pleased and proud to partner with you. You know, it's 6 weeks ago I was here for your opening ceremonies, and the hard work that you put into really polishing your stories and being willing, as we said, to have the courage to share those stories. Your voice really does matter. And it's going to take the village to, you know, really have the impact on reducing and ending hunger. So I'm just proud to partner with you and our food bank, and I look forward to working more with many of you in the future. So really well done today. Thank you.
And I just wanted to add as well that I hope you all save your original stories because you're going to use it. And I like how even Brian, you were featured in a LinkedIn piece, and I saw your story in, you know, that, and I feel like you were able to pull it out because you had worked so hard on it. So keep your original stories, and it may change with time a little bit, but it's going to be a very valuable tool that you'll be able to pull out and use when you're advocating or speaking to an elected official or speaking to your community. So remember your story, because you really condensed it into something wonderful and powerful.
Yes, I'll piggyback on that, save it. Some of our advocates were in Washington, D.C. alongside our advocacy team last week advocating, and those advocates were saying they were still referring back to their hunger story that they had created 2-3 years ago when they had gone through the speaker series, because your why, the story spark, what we talked about in the very first week, why is it that you're a hunger fighter? That never changes. That thing inside you that motivates you to do this work, it can evolve, it can grow, but it will always remain consistent because it's so true to who you are. So keep those stories, and we hope you continue on in advocacy with us or in any capacity you're interested in, because you will continue to use it and that story will continue to grow. Thank you to all of our visitors. We are going to debrief the series. We're going to talk about continuing on to CAP. Before we transition out, for those who are joining us today, any final comments you'd like to share with the group here?
Thank you, Kathy. I'm just blown away, so moved, so inspired. I was on the brink of tearing up on this call. Thank you so much for your courage and bravery, and just thank you. Really wonderful job, and congratulations on the tools you've gained in graduation.
Thanks, Christine. Well, to all of our visitors today, you are welcome to stay on. We are going to start debriefing the whole 6-week series, and I'm not sure how interesting it will be to you, but if that sounds fun, you're welcome to stay. We don't want to kick you out. Thank you so much, everyone. I really, really appreciate you coming, you supporting our advocates, and to our graduates. You are now graduates of the speaker series. You all did fantastic. Again, I apologize. We did not have what we were, hoping for more like an hour rather than 20-30 minutes with an elected, so that each of you could have that dialogue and a direct response after. But I am so grateful that we did have someone join. Scheduling was so tricky this year, and I did really appreciate how Assemblymember Wicks called out each person individually, noted something that resonated with her from your story. And we will have many more advocacy opportunities face-to-face with electeds if you choose to join the Food Bank's advocacy program. And that's what we'll talk about right now. Before we move on, any questions from anybody? Otherwise, I'm going to jump right into talking about what CAP is. So many of you have heard about CAP, our Community Advocacy Partnership. Goodbye to those signing off. Thank you. CAP is the Food Bank's Community Advocacy Partnership. CAP is an advocacy program that is operated all year round, and we invite Speaker Series graduates to join it. As Joel mentioned at the start of our call, CAP right now is comprised of 15 advocates, all of who have gone through speaker series in past years. I'm looking at our screen, and Jason, Jenny, Kiva, Tina, and others are all current CAP members. what you have the opportunity to do in CAP, it really is like a create your own adventure scenario. It's as much as you want to make of it. What we do require as a CAP member is attendance of quarterly meetings. Our next quarterly meeting is in June. We alternate meetings being in person or virtual. So one time is virtual, the next is in person, so on and so forth. Part of that is because we do have CAP members who live all over the state. We even have 2 who live outside of California. And so we want to make sure we remain accessible to them as, you know, they do their advocacy work in their own communities. Our main goal with CAP is to make sure that it remains a space for advocates to be involved in every single part of our policy process. So our CAP group helps us create the legislative agenda every year. That's a document I shared with you all earlier in the series, but it's a list that is public facing that the food bank puts out every year. It's a list of all of the legislation we will engage with, whether we're supporting it or opposing it, if it's on the local, state, national level, whatever it may be, whether it's funding. Some of you in your hunger stories, you're asking for that TFAP money, the state disaster relief money, the Cal Food money. Those are all on our legislative agenda. We also incorporate our advocates when we're meeting with elected officials. So whether that is at our county seats in Martinez or Fairfield, whether it's in Sacramento or Washington, D.C., or virtually, CAP members are invited to that. And we're very excited that within the last year, our CAP group has also had the opportunity to start putting together conference presentations. That's actually where we met Malia. Some of our advocates and our advocacy team last year led a 90-minute conference session at the California Association of Food Bank Conference. And it was about how we center client voices in our advocacy and why advocacy is so important for food banks to have. That is the 3rd conference we've presented at. So the opportunities really are amazing for personal growth, for continued professional growth, whether it's public speaking, whether it's networking, whether you want to network further with the state association, with Feeding America. You build great connections. At this point, I do want to turn it over to either Kiva or Jenny, whoever wants to go first, because I think both of you, I'm just thinking off the top, you've made amazing connections with Feeding America, with CAFB, with people in the White House. So do either of you want to speak to just how CAP has allowed you to continue advocating post-speaker series?
Absolutely. I'll start, Cassidy. So I love CAP, and I just feel like Cassidy said, it just touches on so many areas. And for me professionally, I've just grown so much, and just it's a really wonderful way to do community service. So I love learning about the nuances of the legislative process and sort of where bills are and what that means. And I'm still learning, you know, as you're in these advocacy sessions, you're learning about, you know, where you can advocate, how you can advocate, what you should be advocating for. Maybe it could be different than you entered the room with thinking. So I love learning about the legislative cycle, and I just love taking food insecurity and finding how it fit into my workplace too, and sort of doing work there as well. So completely separate from the food bank, but also supported by them. And that was really a neat integration. So it was at the intersection of health and food insecurity because I'm a nurse. So I think everyone can find a place where they are and know that they can be advancing food security in any profession, honestly, and just how you're advocating or speaking up for this issue. And then I was most empowered probably in my first year in CAP when my voice in college hunger was, I could see it. It was right there. And it just was like, whoa, I better stick around because that voice, you know, put that there. I'm sure it's important to many, but I clearly saw myself participating and bringing that to the table. So that was very valuable. And then public speaking. I mean, I'm just not a public speaker, but I've changed with time and I hope to continue to. And my husband actually sent something over to my entire family yesterday where I was speaking, and my dad said, "Where did you learn how to do that?" I didn't know that you could do public speaking. And I said, "Well, I'm working on it, but it's just, I'm just growing in so many directions." And the people that you're with, I mean, Kiva is like my best friend in advocacy because we started together and we've been on this incredible journey. We were in Washington, D.C. last week. So just so many things have come from this. And my brain is sort of exploding and I'm processing it all, but it's really fantastic. So I could go on, but I know Kiva has things to say as well.
I want to echo and ditto everything that Jenny said. Jenny is an amazing person. She's so polished. When I grow up, I want to be like her. I want to encourage you all to understand that you stand in the place and you speak for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. Even like someone said earlier, even if only a part of your story is a part of theirs, that's enough to know that you are speaking for that person. That's enough to know that you're standing in the place for them. And so it is an honor, like Laura said, it is an honor to stand in the place of someone who needs your help, to stand in the gap, right? To be that bridge between me, the person in need, and them, the person who has the means to give me what I need. You stand in that gap. And it's an honor and it's a privilege and it's real. And I want to also encourage you, I know I'm getting a little emotional. I want you to encourage you to understand that you are going to, if you continue with your advocacy, you will have opportunities to expand your story, and then you will have opportunities to contract your story, because I was told last week that I had to do my story in 1 minute. 1 minute. And oh my gosh, it was a challenge to get it down to 1 minute, but I got some inspiration, and the interaction and the response and feedback that I got from the legislators and the staff was amazing, because it's your story, whether you get to tell it in 30 seconds or 3 hours. And as long as you continue to tell your story with the passion and the inspiration and compassion that you have, I believe that you will do perfectly. So don't think that it's always going to be one way. You're going to get opportunity. You're not in this space for any reason, and you didn't get through this just to get through this. You have a calling, and when you walk in your calling and you walk in the purpose for which you took this class, then you will find that you are walking in your purpose, whether it's for 30 seconds or 3 hours. Thank you.
Thank you both. I know we have other CAP members on the call as well, but at this time, I want to make sure for those who are interested in joining CAP, I am going to send a form right now that we're all going to fill out. It's an interest form for joining CAP, and it asks a few questions for your feedback on the speaker series. Before we go do that form, are there any questions from today's graduates about CAP, about what it might mean, about anything that we can answer for you as you're kind of making that decision?
I have two questions, Cassidy, and thank you for all the feedback. Yeah, I'm definitely interested, but I also in the quarterly meetings, that sounds totally doable. Mm-hmm. But as far as, let's just say there's an opportunity in Washington, D.C., mm-hmm. Realistically, who funds that? Is that something that, I mean, it's an honest question. So just out of curiosity.
Absolutely. That's a great question. So not the advocate. That's the answer. Where we get our funding is for the advocacy team to do these things. That always kind of differs. We have some staff members on here who are part of our grants team. They know how the food bank's always seeking grants. One of the things we fund through grants and through our general fund is advocacy. This most recent time when we took advocates to Washington, D.C. last week, That is not something we were budgeted for. It was not something we could afford. I called Feeding America and I called our state association, CAFB, and I said, are there any scholarships we can apply for? If we're saying we're doing client-centered work, we need to bring clients to this conference. Please help us do this. And we did receive scholarship from both Feeding America and CAFB that helped cover things like airfare, hotel, to make those things possible. So it's not the advocate to be covering those expenses. When we have these quarterly meetings, if we're meeting in the day or at nighttime, we'll provide lunch or dinner for all the advocates. We also, when we go to Sacramento to testify, that transportation, so the mileage and the parking, is reimbursed. And for something like DC, if an overnight would be expected, anything like a hotel would be covered. So that is not on you as an advocate.
So that wouldn't, okay, so that wouldn't be a barrier, because in my head I'm like, oh, how could I? Yeah, okay, thank you. And then my other question was, so I try to, if I commit to something, I try to commit things that I can honestly and realistically give 100%. And so I'm definitely interested, but I just don't know that I could say, hey, I'll be here at every single opportunity. Is that okay too, to not be able to be at every single one, other than the meetings?
Absolutely. And you bring up a great point. So when those of you who are going to join CAP join, it is like it's a fresh group. So we have our 15 current members, but with the new members who are, hopefully joining today, that felt kind of like timeshare presentation, how I said that. There is no pressure to join. I hope you all want to, but there is no pressure. This is not like a timeshare thing. What we will do is we will bring those of you who are joining plus our 15 CAP members, existing members, together and renegotiate when our meetings are, when events are. So anytime we're setting even the quarterly meeting dates, that is decided based upon what works for everyone. And then, Willie, to answer the other part of your question, we don't expect any advocate to be at every opportunity all the time. Advocates have very different levels of availability and ability to be involved. So we have some advocates who we just see them at our quarterly meetings and they give us feedback over email when we send them things like our legislative agenda, but we don't see them much more often than that. We have other advocates who they are there every single opportunity, whether it's media, whether it's advocacy, whether it's fundraising. So it really is a create your own adventure, choose your own adventure. You can make it as much of a commitment as you want, but the only thing that we do ask everyone to be at are those quarterly meetings, and those are scheduled around everyone's availability. Okay.
If I can say something to piggyback onto what you were saying, I'm one of those CAP members who I don't go to Washington. I don't, because I can't commit to doing those things. But when there's something I can do, like local or whatever, I always, I can do that. But your involvement is as much as you can make it. You can be on the sidelines, kind of like I am. Or like Cassidy said, you can like be there for everything. But I do try to make the quarterly, always.
I'd like to add to that. Because I haven't been working for the last year and a half and just recently retired, I've answered every call, or almost every call, right? And so, but at some point I might want to, I don't know if it's anytime soon, but I might want to make room for y'all, right? But for right now, I'm answering every call. So I'm giving you that to say that you do have the freedom to say yes anytime you want. You have the freedom to say no anytime you need.
Absolutely. And it ebbs and flows too. So we've had advocates who have been, and I'm thinking like past 4 years, not just our current group, who have been super dedicated and then they move, or then we have one who just started medical school and things change, and we get that. It's life, and life is busy for all of us, especially if you're working in the hunger space, the anti-poverty space, social work. ministry. I mean, it's busy, it's demanding, just our jobs are taxing. We don't want CAP to be like one more stressor for you. If anything, we want it to be a commitment you enjoy and energizing and inspiring and uplifting. So it ebbs and flows. There's not, one right or wrong way to do it. Caroline, what's up?
I'm wondering, so does it have terms? Like, is it a cycle where it's 1 year or a quarter, or how does that work?
It's a good question. The terms, I don't know that we've used that word officially yet, but when we bring in the new cohort, new members to the cohort each May after the speaker series ends, we usually always have a June meeting. That is usually when it's the start of that new group. So I more so look at it as by cohort, not so much by the year, the calendar cycle, but with that group as one. I'm going to.
And I've been on CAP since CAP started, I do believe.
Tina has been with CAP longer than I've been with the food bank. I think you've been here all 7 years.
I believe I have.
She's our longest standing advocate.
That's a long time.
It is, but we're happy to have you. We're so happy to have you. So I just put this form in the chat. We're going to take 10 minutes to fill it out. This is where you will indicate your interest in joining CAP. And we have some questions in there asking for your feedback on the speaker series, what you liked, what could have been better. Please feel free to, just be really honest. It won't hurt our feelings. We want to make sure this is a series that is worth everyone's time, is rewarding, it's empowering. So if you have any thoughts, this would be the place to put them. Feel free to, camera off, mic off, whatever you need to do. We'll come back at 4:35 when everyone is done. Let me know if you have any trouble accessing the form.
Do you want us to do it too?
Peer mentors, you can fill it out if you'd like to, if you have feedback, absolutely. We do also have our peer mentor debrief tomorrow. So
okay.
If there's anything.
I'll wait for the debrief.
Okay.
Cassidy, has anyone ever been kicked out?
There has been one.
Yes. I remember.
Okay.
There was one situation when I first started where, and I'll preface this by saying when we join CAP, one of the first things we do is we make team norms and we talk about what the expectations are in terms of just like the speaker series. This is a safe space. We're being vulnerable. What we talk about in these groups needs to be respected and held in these spaces. There was one individual who made a comment during a group meeting that many felt was a insensitive and racist remark. And we did ask that group member to depart the group because that was not in line with our norms. That's not being respectful. That is not creating a safe space. But I will say that was only one person 4 years ago. And that was my first month at the food bank. There has never been anything like that since. And I think we've done a fantastic job. Tina's our only advocate from that time frame. Everyone else has been recruited since. And I think and I mentioned that to say, we've done a great job of bringing everyone through the speaker series, creating a safe space in the series, I hope, and then going on to CAP where the expectation should already be known. So we've never had anything close to that. in the last 4 years. But yes, I want to mention that one instance did happen, because I want you all to know that if you do join CAP, we will not tolerate anything that is, puts others down and is insulting and insensitive. It is intended to always be a safe space.
Hey, Cassidy, I didn't get the survey.
Oh, okay. Let me put it in the chat. Did anyone else not get it?
Is it in the chat?
I just put it in there again. Were you able to see it this time?
Okay, I see it now.
Okay.
That's it. I got the link. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My thing is tripping. Oh no.
Cassidy, I heard Buffy Wicks mention story of self.
Ah,
Had you heard of the story of self before?
no, I've never heard of the story of self, but I now will be looking that up and seeing if, maybe Buffy Wicks comes back earlier in the session and speaks about story of self as we talk about storytelling.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. She I was just Googling it, and it's another way to come up with why you've been called to serve.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Uh-huh. Tells why we have been called to action.
How interesting. I'm looking up, I Googled story to self Buffy Wicks, and just a bunch of news articles come up right now. So I'm not finding it readily, but I will.
If you leave out Buffy Wicks and just look at story of self, it's a thing.
Wow. How are we just learning about this? She's been our elected official for like 6 years.
Might be an interesting, if we wanted to change up the module.
Yeah.
Around, that's another way to do it. Another framework to use.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. I'm looking at it now.
Cassidy, also from a medical perspective, there's actually a biology of how storytelling impacts the brain in like brain scans. So it's actually physiologically, there's a response and it creates like more activity in the brain. And so it's really kind of interesting that those personal stories actually light up our brains in the most awesome way. So.
I need some brain lighting up. I like that.
All right, we'll take 3 or 4 more minutes on the form. Let me know if you need more time.
I put potluck. That's one of my answers. I think it would be cool if we had a potluck as one of the meetings. I don't know.
I think you're right. That would be really cool for the speaker series.
Yeah, for us, I mean, I know it's kind of challenging. One of the questions I put maybe occasional in-persons would be cool with a potluck maybe halfway through, so we can kind of get to hang out with each other for a couple minutes and just kind of, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I absolutely 100% agree.
That would be nice. And we've gone back and forth as an advocacy team with how we want to do these speaker series, virtual, hybrid, in person, since COVID, because making it virtual allows for Jason, Malia, to go through it. Folks who are in the North State. We had someone last year from Texas, someone from Arizona. We've had someone from Humboldt County. So all over the state, all over the country. The person from Texas was doing as Malia's doing. They were trying to start their own and they work at another food bank. We want it to still be mainly Contra Costa Solano residents, but Caroline also out of our service area. So we want to keep it accessible, but I think you're right. There's maybe a hybrid way to do it where we can get together in person, and that would be great.
Yeah, or maybe just a one time halfway through, or maybe as the recap or the debrief. Who knows? And I totally get it to include it. Yes, absolutely, 100%. We definitely wouldn't want to disclude anybody by switching over, but maybe just once or something might be cool. Who knows?
I think you're absolutely right. That'd be great.
I personally like the video one because the Zoom allows you to attend the meetings from wherever you are with whatever work schedule you have. So that if you're not at the food bank or if you're out of town or whatever, because like this Wednesdays wasn't necessarily the best day for me, and I had scheduled for the Tuesdays, but it allowed me still to be able to participate and do the rest of the stuff that I needed to do for the day. So where there's changes and that type of thing, it's a consistent, have a link available, even if you do have a live meeting, have a link available for people to be able to chime in, come into the meeting and not miss out. I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And I think virtual is very convenient in a lot of ways. Yeah. All right. Does anyone else need more time to finish the form?
I'm still working on it, but I'm also happy to wrap it up after 5 o'clock and make sure I get it in then.
That's okay. Is there anyone else still working? If we need to give another minute, we can. All right. If not, feel free to come back from being camera off. We'll go ahead and go through the rest of our meeting. Let me bring up our agenda. Where did it go? Here it is. All righty. Let's see here. Okay. The final thing is that all of you will be.
I got a question.
Oh yeah, Willie, what's up?
I'm sorry, Haley. We didn't have a chance to hear from Haley.
You mean my hunger story?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just because I know Assemblymember Wicks didn't have that much time, so I wanted to make sure that you had time. But I appreciate you mentioning that, Willie. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Did you want to share now with the group, Haley? We do have a couple minutes if you wanted to.
I think I'm okay unless I'm encouraged to, but I think I'm okay.
Sure, you put so much into it and you did a great job. I don't.
Okay, okay, I can go then. Let me.
We all have to do. We all do it, Haley.
Okay, let me pull it up. Okay. Hello, my name is Haley Solaris. I work for the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano, and I'm a participant in the Food Bank of Contra Costa and Solano's 2023 speaker series. My positionality in the world is what has led me to be a hunger fighter. I am a first-generation Latina, the daughter of an immigrant from Guatemala. My father experienced food insecurity and hunger firsthand. His childhood home was made of mud and bricks. Given this, they did not have proper refrigeration to store food. Fortunately, when my dad was 18, he was able to move to the US and alleviate himself from poverty. When I was 14 years old, my father was falsely accused and sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. He was released in 2021 and thankfully was able to see me graduate from my dream university. While he was gone, my mother, sister, and I were unable to pay the mortgage on our home. We were evicted and left with a week's notice to find a place to stay, leaving us houseless. We all lived in our cars for 3 weeks until someone from church took us in. This was exceptionally difficult as I had just started my first semester of community college. During that time, I did not think that I was food insecure, as we still had money to buy food. Now I realize we were in a state of food insecurity because we had no proper refrigeration or food storage and little access to food, just like my dad's experience in Guatemala. The toll this took on me as a new college student was unbearable. My story and my father's show that food insecurity and poverty are cyclical, and it is hard and sometimes feels impossible to break the cycles. That is why we need strong and permanent legislation that breaks cycles of hunger and poverty. I ask you, Assemblymember Wicks, to support AB 712, the CalFresh Hot and Prepared Foods Bill. If I had CalFresh when I was houseless and had the opportunity to purchase hot meals, it would have made a huge difference. This bill will have a major impact on individuals who have experiences like mine. Thankfully, my father and I were able to overcome the barriers we face from food insecurity and periods of poverty. Every individual facing these challenges deserves the right to overcome them. This is why we must fight for the dream of having no human left hungry.
It was awesome. That's
Thank
cool.
you. And thanks, Laura, for all your help and your encouragement as well.
All you did a fantastic job.
And see, now you're one of us. You have a story as well.
Thanks, guys.
Yay, 12 graduates of the series. Amazing. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Willie, thank you for remembering that Haley didn't go. Once again, just wish we could have had the full-fledged 45 minutes with the elected, but Haley was kind enough to sacrifice her story during the time with Wicks and share it with all of us later. So thank you for bringing that up. So I'll look for everyone's responses on those forms. Haley and I will take a look and see who is interested in joining CAP based on your responses on those forms. All of our peer mentors here and Haley and I are meeting tomorrow to debrief the entire series, gather our thoughts and feedback, and make sure we document that for the peer mentors and facilitators who lead the series next year. And so any feedback you brought up in those forms, we will review tomorrow. And if you have any other thoughts that come up or you want to share anything else, feel free to email me or your peer mentor tonight, or just, as it comes up, if it comes up later as well. At this time, I'm hoping everyone can direct message Haley in chat. We are going to be mailing you your speaker series graduation diplomas and your gift cards. So all of you get a $25 grocery gift card for every session. So 6 sessions, one $25 gift card each. And then for everyone who graduated the series, which is everyone here today, we define graduating as, you shared your story today, the final session with our elected or with the full group here, will receive a $100 Visa gift card, and they're all activated. They should work wherever, you're able to use a Visa. And then I asked your peer mentors to ask you where you would like to have your grocery gift card. So they're either to Grocery Outlet or to Safeway, but the Safeway cards can go to like Bonds, Lucky, Albertsons, any of the many organizations that are part of the Albertsons Safeway family. So Haley will be mailing the certificates, diplomas, and gift cards out to all of you. So if you can please put your mailing address in the chat to Haley so she can get everyone's info. And then food bank staff, if you just want it to be in your mailbox at the food bank, please tell Haley which food bank and specify like Concord mailbox or Fairfield, well, we don't have mailboxes in Fairfield, but I think all of you are based in Concord or Walnut Creek right now. So take a minute, put that in the chat to Haley, please. Again, just your mailing address, and then probably those will be mailed out sometime next week. So I would expect you to be on the lookout for those like the first week of June. By the latest, they should be there. They will be larger packages because your diplomas will be framed. And so if you don't get anything by, first week of June, let us know. Okay, so as you finish sending those over to Haley, we have a few minutes left. We can close early. Or if there's any questions, feedback, celebrations for your fellow speaker series graduates, we have time for any of them. Anything we can answer for the group?
Can I share a story?
Yeah.
I want to share a story with you guys because I think it's pretty powerful. So my grandfather on my mom's side, my mom's father, who I never met, he passed away when she was 16. So he served in World War II out in Burma. And so after World War II, him and my grandmother, who was from Brownsville, Texas, which was a border town, a lot of poverty, my grandmother never completed 7th grade. After World War II, they ended up in a little farming agriculture community called Brentwood. So they ended up in Brentwood and they lived, if you're familiar with Brentwood, my mom was literally born on Minnesota Avenue, which is now a pretty popular main road. But at the time it was just all farms and orchards. So my mom was literally born in a shack on Minnesota Avenue in a camp called, it was BG camp. They call it Blue Goose. And so that was one of the camps in Brentwood at the time. So in the late 40s, my eldest aunt, who was the eldest of 10 kids, she went to kindergarten and they sent her home. They sent her home from school. They told my grandmother, we can't teach this child. She doesn't speak English and we don't speak Spanish. It's hard to imagine that could be the case, but back then that was the reality. And so my grandmother told my aunt, she said, you're going to learn how to speak English because education is going to be the way that you find a new life, a different life than picking in the fields for the rest of your life. So my grandmother taught my aunt how to speak English. After the school district, the Brentwood School District, realized that my grandmother could be the unofficial interpreter between the families that lived in the camps and the school district, whenever there was a concern, they would go to my grandmother. They say, her name was Alice. They say, oh, we can't get a hold of the Martinez family, go see Alice. How come so-and-so's child isn't coming to school, go see Alice. So they would go to my grandmother and she would go and talk to the families and find out what was going on, sometimes putting people into the little station wagon and taking them to the hospital or any number of scenarios. After doing that for years, the school district told my grandmother, Alice, they said, you know what, Alice, we're just going to give you a job. We want you to work for us. And my grandmother said, I don't know how to work. I never completed 7th grade. They said, just keep doing what you've always done. We're just going to pay you now. And so that's what she did. She bought the house that me, my mom, and my kids now live in. And when she passed a couple of years ago, they named the Brentwood Elementary what they call the multi-purpose room after my grandmother. So on the side of the building, on the side of the school, as big as it says Brentwood Elementary, and then it says Alicia Morales Ramirez multi-purpose room. And there's a plaque and it says, for your dedication and service to the underserved community of Brentwood. So isn't that a pretty cool story? I love telling that story. So that was my grandmother.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's a wonderful story.
And look at how 2-3 generations later, her legacy still carries on.
And 2 of her children became school teachers. The eldest aunt that she taught back in the late 40s, early 50s, she became an elementary school teacher, now retired. She's coming up on 80 years old. And one of the other sisters, one of the other aunts, became an elementary school teacher as well. So 2 of her 10 kids became school teachers.
Nice. That's amazing. Love that. Thank you for sharing. Any other questions or comments from the group?
I just want to say really quick how impressed I am with this whole program. You know, I wanted to do this speaker series originally because I wanted to have more experience with advocacy and speaking with elected officials and that part of the work that we do. But I'm like totally blown away at all the things that I have learned and the emotional connections and friendships and experiences that I have, had during this 6-week period. I just never in a million years would have thought that I would be feeling like this at the end of 6 weeks. So I'm just really grateful for the opportunity, and I'm excited to keep going. So thank you to you, Cassidy, and to all the peer mentors and everybody that participated. It's just super, super awesome. And I'm so grateful to be part of all of this. It's like a gift. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. And
I want to underscore you, Cassidy. Thank you. You make this all happen, and it's a lot of work, and you make it look easy and seamless. And we know it's not, but you do a beautiful job, and thank you for that. And Haley, you're new and you just stepped right up, stepped right in. And so thank you for all the support you provided as well. Really well done.
Thank you, Laura and Dawn, really appreciate it. And I think Haley's first day of work was the morning of the speaker series, or like the day before the speaker series. So she has had quite the onboarding to the food bank, but thank you for going along with it. And I just am checking out the chat. I see Malia put her LinkedIn in there. I'm going to encourage all of you to friend each other on LinkedIn, connect with one another, whatever the proper term is, or if you don't have LinkedIn, I encourage you make one. It's a really great way to stay up to date professionally, what's going on in the news. Our food bank has a pretty active LinkedIn. All of our elected officials, for the most part, are on LinkedIn, or they are interacting with stuff on there. So it's a really powerful tool in advocacy and just professionally in general. Any final questions, comments before we close?
No questions. Just want to say thank you again to everyone for being here. Thank you to Cassidy, to all of the peer mentors, especially Kiva. I can't thank you enough. To Haley, I was also just blown away by this program. It's been phenomenal, and I'm so happy that I had the chance to meet all of you and to hear your stories and to work with you. It's, oh my gosh, just been such a delight. I am so thankful to have met each and every person on this call. So thank you to everyone.
Wonderful. And we were put in touch, Caroline, was it by Jessica Silverstein a few months ago? I'm so glad she thought to put us in touch. And Caroline and I had just like an informal kind of coffee chat over Zoom over the winter, I think, and maybe even fall. And then she mentioned she had an interest in advocacy. Speaker series came around. I was like, hey, Caroline, if you want to do this, here's the application. So thank you for going through it. I'm so glad we were like randomly put in touch and found each other in this work.
Me too. I'm so glad.
Yeah, that's how things work. It's you meet someone and you're a connector and you think to introduce two people. And I love that. That's great. Well, if there are no further questions, I just want to thank all of you. You are all incredible advocates. I appreciate everyone's time, your energy. I know this, as much as it's a fulfilling series, I think it's probably also kind of a draining series, and you're asked to really look inward and reflect and spend time developing a story on something that's so personal. And I think a lot of us are taught to not always get that personal, but it is so valuable in this space. And if you all go on to join CAP, one thing that we start to talk about more in our CAP meetings are about how advocacy works and how it is different on the state level and the federal level. And we start fine-tuning how to be an even more effective advocate. Like Kiva said, sometimes you're in situations where you have 5 minutes and you're the keynote speaker. Other times it is, this meeting got shortened and you have 30 seconds, you have 1 minute. And so we have enough advocacy opportunities in our CAP group to really evolve and grow as an advocate. So you're prepared for being in all of those different types of spaces. But I want to thank you all. I want to congratulate you all. It's been an honor to work with you, hear your stories. Thank you to the peer mentors. Thank you, to Haley, my second half of our advocacy team here. And we're really excited to hopefully work with some of you in CAP, and Malia, Caroline, those of you going back to other food banks, don't be strangers. If you need anything, if you ever want to, just talk food bank stuff as you build out your own programs and grow within your roles, we're happy to. We're always here. So thank you so much, everyone, and great work.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.